uh, the dimensions. I experienced the dimensions also in Amsterdam, but that was I was experiencing from the eighth dimension, which was heaven, and this time I was experiencing from the fourth dimension, which is hell. Hell, heaven. This is not like we shouldn't take it so literally. This concepts, because they basically exist in our mind. So each of us, the hell that each of us can think about, that's the hell that person will experience. So we might experience different hells, different purgatories, depends on what kind of belief systems we have, what kind of connections we have with other people, attachments, customs, what are the customs that we follow in our culture, religion, and stuff like that. Um, what I'd experienced, it was just two things, and the way I am actually talking about it, presenting it today, it might seem like, oh, it's just not a big deal. Oh, she's talking about panic attack. She's talking about crying. Oh, it was just like a little thing. No, that was like, if any of you can imagine the worst thing that can happen to each of you, each of them, that's what I was feeling. That heaviness, um, that heaviness, that um, fear, the anxiety, everything was just, I can't even describe it, to be honest. Anyway, so that was the 2 weeks, and the next 2 weeks was again like I kind of understood that what started happening to me in January is not gonna just end quietly. Something is gonna proceed, but of course at that time again I didn't understand fully what was going on. Like I experienced what happened to me as activating of my inner eye, but the moment I was going through it, I didn't know it was this. I thought I was just getting crazy, basically. And I just would like to add that uh, my husband, who uh, was actually working with people that did need some psychiatric help, told me, that was like in his early times, told me when I was experiencing these things, when I thought that I'm getting crazy, he said, no, you are not getting crazy. You are experiencing something that we don't fully understand what it is, you and me, but this is not mental health issues. So anyway, that was the second experience, and the third experience was activation of Kundalini, which I would like to describe in this video. Um, I was actually, that was again the evening, I was listening to the lecture, or I was reading the post from the I Am project, I can't remember, and I started feeling like there was a ball of electricity, heat, kind of like coming from the lower part of my body, and it was just like coming up, but that was very light, like I felt it, but it wasn't very, very strong. But it got to my head here, and I felt like it was just so extremely intense, that energy, that heat. I thought I was experiencing a stroke or some very typical physical medical issue. So again, I got panic attack when the energy got here to my head. I got panic attack. I didn't know what to do. I was just throwing myself on the couch, and I went to bed. An hour later, or an hour and a half, I can't remember, I went to bed. I was fighting that energy in me because I felt it was just like pushing from here towards the upper part of my head. And I was scared. Like I didn't know what it was. I thought I'm gonna have a stroke. So I was basically just pushing it back in. I was pushing it back in, like, no, you're gonna stay there. Yeah, I'm not gonna allow you to do it. And I was fighting that energy, even though that energy was so extremely strong. I was fighting it. And then it was the night I went to bed, and it was that moment when I felt so relaxed, and it was like the orgasm, but it wasn't sexual. I just didn't know what it was again. Like, what the hell is that? And I understood that was the energy that decided to, without my permission, decided to leave my body here somehow. I didn't even know where, like, what the heck. But then it was just like that relaxation, that expansion that the energy gave me leaving my body was so fantastic. It was like the massage, the best massage ever, the best singing ball bath ever. It was just like I relaxed everywhere, everywhere. Every single cell in my body was relaxed. It was such an amazing feeling. And then it was the same night, I can't remember, or maybe the next night, I had the same similar situation, but this time I really experienced, like, I felt the energy rising from the bottom, the lower part of my body, and I felt the movement. It was coming, and I remember I was laying in the bedroom, and I was almost like looking at that energy that was moving inside, but I didn't see it, but it was moving, and it was so tangible. And it, again, it got like here, I felt it was moving here, and when it got to my head, I got panic attack again. I thought it was a stroke again. Again, I was pushing back in that energy. I didn't want it to leave. And that day, I got up. I got up. I didn't know what to do. It was a panic attack, but I didn't wake up my husband. I woke up. I went to the living room. I sat on the couch, and I felt that energy. It was like boiling here, boiling. It was like a pot with a lot of steam, and there was a lid on top of my head, the lid that didn't allow the steam to come out. That's why I felt it was like, um, how to say, there was a word I wanted to use here. Percolating. It was just so much. And then I felt it left my body. It left. And I could experience it left 30 centimeters above my head. And then I didn't know where it went. If it was a little bit higher, it went even up, like higher up, or it's like it ended up like, uh, in the shape of an apple. I didn't. I felt it like up here, and then I didn't feel. And again, like the moment it was leaving my body here, it was just that fantastic orgasm, not sexual. It was because I felt it here, not down there, not in the reproductive organs. I felt it here, up here. It was like an orgasm, and then I felt that expansion and relaxation. And the moment it left my body, except for that beautiful relaxation, I started seeing here inside. My eyes were closed, my physical eyes were closed, but I started seeing inside. And I have had many of these experiences with Kundalini. Now I know it was Kundalini, but I will also explain how I got to that information that was Kundalini. But there were many like pictures that were showing up here. And the very first one that I saw, it was a cat's eye. Cat's eye. And there was one, not the next one, but there was another time that I experienced the energy leaving my body, and then I saw inside cat's foot. And there were also other more profound kind of visions that they were shown to me. But anyway, at one point, there were like 3 or 4 nights in a row that I experienced this energy, and I thought that was I started menopause. I didn't know what it was again. Like I didn't have any experience. I didn't have any teacher telling me what it was. I thought it was a menopause. So I wrote a report to my homeopath professor, and I described I describe everything as I did, as I'm describing right now. There was an orgasm. There was this thing coming up, and there was this thing, and I started seeing this. And then the reply, professor's reply, was very telling again. He asked me, "Have you, Magdalena? Have you ever tried to activate Kundalini? If so, what was the result?" And when I read his email, I felt like that's the Kundalini that everybody in the on the spiritual path talks about. That's what it was. It wasn't the menopause. I mean, at that time I was 41 years old, and I thought that was too early to have menopause. But I mean, physical body is very individual, so it could have happened. So when professor actually wrote the name Kundalini, I was like, ah, that's what it was actually. Then I found out it was Kundalini. So that was my third experience, and slowly things started coming to me, like what's going on. And I remember at one point, I was writing many of these reports to professor. I was constantly anxious and worried and in fear with panic attacks. So I was writing quite many of these reports. And at one point, professor told me, "I think that experience in Amsterdam that you had changed something in you that shouldn't be activated." So we were trying to kind of correct that with the remedy. But I thought like, no, that cannot be. Like so many people use cannabis, and what, like they end up like me. This just it doesn't make any sense. But of course, like I trusted professor, like I respect him. I respected him, and I still respect him. So I just accepted what he said. But there was a night when I felt Kundalini again. I was lying in bed this time, and I allowed that energy to leave my body. And the moment I experienced that, the memory of my childhood came back, and I knew I experienced that as a child. Energy moving in my body and leaving through the top of my head. I remember there was a memory clip coming from my childhood. I was laying in my bed, here in the house, and I felt it. I felt it. It left my mind, my head, and then I was like, aha! Now I understand the remedies, the homeopathic treatment I was experiencing was bringing up something that was submerged, that was um, what's the word? That was um, pushed to the how, what's the name of that? Like, gosh, I'm missing that word. Ah, I can't remember. So anyway, then I knew that was my traumas. I experienced that in my childhood, and the remedies, the homeopathy, it's bringing that up, back up. That was the beginning of my traumatic childhood coming back to me.